Mesdames et messieurs représentants des délégations, bienvenue et veuillez excuser cette difficulté de traduction. La ratification universelle de la Convention pour la protection de toutes les personnes contre les disparitions forcées est une priorité pour la France. Cette convention compte aujourd'hui 77 États parties, alors qu'elle n'en comptait que 20 à son entrée en vigueur le 23 décembre 2010, lorsque le comité des disparitions forcées a tenu sa première séance publique. C'est encore trop peu et notre responsabilité collective est de mettre tout en œuvre pour que cette convention devienne universelle. Les disparitions forcées peuvent constituer un crime contre l'humanité au titre du statut de Rome de la Cour pénale internationale. Cette convention offre à tous les États un moyen de mettre un terme à cette pratique par des mécanismes de prévention, de protection et de lutte contre l'impunité. Les conséquences de ces crimes dépassent nos frontières. Les laisser perdurer interroge notre rapport au respect de l'intégrité et de la dignité humaine. La réalité est que le crime de disparition forcée demeure une pratique dans toutes les régions du monde et une pratique systématique dans certains États. Ce qui s'est produit en Syrie ces dernières années en est la terrible illustration. La déclaration d'intention que revêt la signature de la Convention n'est pas suffisante pour rendre les mécanismes de cette Convention pleinement effectifs. Seul un engagement juridiquement contraignant permet de s'attaquer aux cas individuels et aux pratiques de disparition forcée systématique grâce à des mesures proactives d'enquête et de réaction. La portée de cet engagement est fondamentale puisqu'il permet de criminaliser et de sanctionner cette pratique en droit interne, de reconnaître le droit à la vérité et à la réparation pour les proches des disparus et de mettre en œuvre des mécanismes ad hoc. Cette convention instaure une coopération internationale indispensable en matière d'entraide judiciaire. Je cite, la plus large possible ou de traitement et collecte des données. Elle prévoit dans son article 10 que les États parties peuvent détenir des personnes soupçonnées d'avoir commis un crime de disparition forcée. Dans son article 11, que les États parties assurent à toute personne le droit de dénoncer les faits. Cette coopération ne peut produire tous ses effets et être pleinement efficace que si cette convention est ratifiée par le plus grand nombre possible d'États. Les États parties s'engagent à coopérer avec le comité des disparitions forcées dont ils élisent les experts. Il accomplit un travail essentiel pour lutter contre la prévalence de cette pratique dans nos sociétés, accompagne et assiste les États dans la mise en œuvre des mécanismes de la Convention. Par la ratification, un signal fort est envoyé aux responsables de ces crimes. Il n'y a pas d'impunité. La France est engagée sur la voie de l'universalisation de cette convention en menant des démarches conjointes avec l'Argentine auprès des États n'ayant pas ratifié cet instrument. En 2024, 5 États issus de 3 continents différents, l'Afrique du Sud, le Bangladesh, la Côte d'Ivoire, la Pologne et la Thaïlande, ont ratifié ce texte. Nous saluons cette décision et les encourageons à se mobiliser dans leurs régions respectives pour que d'autres États suivent leur exemple. Un travail est nécessaire de notre part pour accompagner les États sur cette voie en leur offrant une assistance technique souvent indispensable pour qu'ils s'approprient et puissent transposer en droit interne les mécanismes juridiques mis en place. Ne perdons pas l'objectif des 100 États parties d'ici la fin de cette année. C'est un défi ambitieux, mais ce congrès, avec le succès qu'il connaît, nous offre l'occasion de mobiliser et de sensibiliser toutes les parties prenantes pour que cette
we
violation
want
inacceptable
to
des droits
take
de
this
l'homme ne soit pas
opportunity to
passée sous
raise
silence.
awareness so that this
Nous ne
violation
devons
of
aux
human
victimes
rights
et à
is
leurs
not
proches
silenced any
ces
longer.
actes ignobles qui
And
arrachent des individus à leurs proches, qui plongent des communautés dans
these
l'incertitude et
are
dans
the
la douleur,
actions
n'ont pas la place dans nos
that
sociétés.
lead communities to
Pour les
experience
prochaines années,
pain.
l'universalisation de la Convention reste
For
l'une
the
des
following
priorités de la
years,
France aux côtés de nos partenaires.
we need
Et
a
nous espérons pouvoir
universalization.
compter sur l'engagement de tous les États dans
We
cet
hope
objectif commun.
we
Je vous
can
remercie
count
et
on
je vais passer la
the
parole à Monsieur Carlos Maria
participation of all
Foradauri,
the
représentant permanent d'Argentine
states. I
à
give the
Genève.
floor to Carlos Maria Fava,
Merci.
permanent representative of Argentina in Geneva.
Muy buenos días a todos.
Good morning to
En
one and all.
Argentina, al igual que
Argentina,
los demás países que
as
alentamos la
other
ratificación de la
members that
Convención contra las
encourage the
desapariciones
ratification
forzadas,
and implementation of the
agradece a todos
International
aquellos que hicieron
Convention,
posible la realización de este
wants
Congreso
to
y de este
thank the
panel.
organizers of this
Pero creer que la
Congress and of this
Convención es una
panel.
cosa del
The
pasado, que
convention
solo busca abordar la memoria
wants
y no
to
tiene nada
honor
que ver con
the
el
memory
presente,
of the
es
past.
un mito que quiero ayudar a disipar
And
con mi
it is
intervención.
linked to the present, although some people
En mi
might
región
say the
tenemos un ejemplo
opposite.
muy
In
claro
my
de un
region,
régimen
we have
político
a clear
que, alejado de
example of a
cualquier
political
pretensión de
regime
mostrarse democrático,
that was not
se ha
democratic at
erigido
all,
en una brutal y sanguinaria
and
dictadura que
it is
encarcela,
a
que
dictatorship
tortura
that
y
puts in
desaparece a los
prison, that
miembros de la
tortures,
oposición.
and makes the
En este momento
members
la
of the
Argentina tiene
opposition
un ciudadano
disappear.
suyo,
Argentina,
Nahuel Gallo,
we have
detenido en
Nahuel
un lugar
Gallo,
incierto,
who is detained.
separado de la
We don't know
familia,
where,
que vive en la
separated from his
incertidumbre y
family, living
sufrimiento
in
de no conocer su
uncertainty, not
paradero.
knowing
El régimen
his
reconoció que se
whereabouts.
encuentra
The
en su poder,
regime
no
has
permite las
recognized
garantías
that
mínimas
they
previstas en la
have
Convención
this
para la protección de las
not
personas contra las
guaranteeing
desapariciones forzadas, ni
the
acceso a un abogado,
access to a
ni acceso a
lawyer,
la justicia,
access to
ni
justice,
contacto con los
or
familiares,
contact
ni
with
conocer
the
la evidencia en la que se funda
relatives,
su
or
detención, ni el
knowing
lugar
why
de su
he was
detención,
detained and where
la
he is
autoridad que
being
controla esa
imprisoned.
detención,
The
ni
authority
tampoco quien la
that
ordena.
controls this
Nahuel Gallo tiene un
detention.
niño de 2 años
Our guy
y una pareja
has
que no
a
sabe del
child
paradero
who
de
is
su
2
padre.
years old
Tiene una pareja que ahora debe
and
sostener
a partner
íntegramente y en soledad a la
who
familia y llevar
has
adelante
to
con
be
valentía en
alone
Venezuela las
and raise the
averiguaciones
family
para las cuales
on
no
her
tiene
own
respuesta, porque nadie se
with a
anima
lot
a
of
oponerse
questions,
al régimen.
because
Nahuel
nobody
Gallo ingresó por
dares
motivos familiares
to
con el visado
be against
correspondiente.
the regime.
Sin embargo, la República
And
Bolivariana de
Aguayo
Venezuela
had
se niega a garantizar
the
las
correct
condiciones mínimas de
visa,
garantía de derechos
but
humanos, incurriendo
the
así en el
human
trato
rights
cruel,
are
inhumano y
not
degradante para con él,
guaranteed.
para con su hijo y para con su familia. Argentina no está sola.
Argentina is
Muchos
not
otros
alone.
países han tenido
Many
las
other
mismas experiencias con
countries
el
had the
régimen
same
venezolano.
experiences
Decenas de desapariciones forzadas en situaciones
with a lot
análogas.
of
Sin
examples,
embargo, en la Organización de
but
Naciones
the
Unidas
organization
hay un
of the United
silencio
Nations
atronador.
shows
El día en que
silence.
desapareció por
When
unos
he
instantes en forma forzada en
disappeared
Venezuela María Corina
in
Machado,
Venezuela,
las
Maria
Naciones
Corina
Unidas lanzó
Machado,
una
the
campaña
United
sobre
Nations
discursos de odio,
launched a campaign
nunca más
about
inoportuno.
hatred discourses.
A menos que haya respuestas claras y
And there
contundentes
are
de
no
condena por
clear
parte de cada uno de
responses.
nuestros países
We
a
need
este
our
régimen de terror, la deslegitimación será
countries to
irreversible.
condemn this
No es posible
situation.
sostener al mismo tiempo un discurso
We cannot
requiriendo la adhesión
sustain our
universal a la
discourse.
Convención, cuando
We
Venezuela
cannot
ha
ask
adherido a ella
the
y no hay una
countries
respuesta
to
firme del derecho
ratify this
internacional para
convention
frenar
if
la
Venezuela,
atrocidad de
for
los sucesos
example,
que allí están
is not
ocurriendo.
participating and
Mi país
stopping
valora
the crimes that are
el
happening.
trabajo del Grupo de Trabajo
So
sobre
we want
Desapariciones
to
Forzadas
thank
o
the job
Involuntarias, cuyo
of
mandato
the
se renovó mediante la
working
resolución del
group.
Consejo de Derechos
It
Humanos
was
5414 en
renewed by the
octubre del año
resolution
23,
54
cuyo rol
in
es
October
fundamental para
93. Its
esclarecer los
role
casos
is
ocurridos
fundamental to
antes del 23
clarify
de diciembre de
what has
2010.
happened before
Ahora bien, sería
2010,
trascendente que el Comité
and the
contra la
committee
Desaparición Forzada cumpla
against
con su
enforced
mandato. Para
disappearances
ello también
should
necesitamos
fulfill
la
its mandate,
universalización de
and
la
we need the
Convención.
universalization of the convention in order
Lamentablemente,
to do
el
that.
número de estados
And
que aceptan
the
que el
number of
Comité
states that
reciba y
accept
examine
that the
comunicaciones
committee
individuales,
has
es
to
decir, artículo
examine these
31,
communications,
y el
Article 31,
27, su
and
competencia para
27,
recibir y
its
examinar
competencies to
comunicaciones
examine
interestatales,
communications
artículo
between different
32,
states, Article
es mucho
32,
menor al de
is
las ratificaciones registradas.
lower than the
Esta
ratification that
situación
have
es
been registered.
inquietante y
So
reveladora. Argentina invita y seguirá buscando más ratificaciones que
We will
evidentemente
have to
son
look for more
urgentes.
ratifications that
Argentina
are
quisiera
very
cerrar esta
important.
comunicación haciendo un llamado a una reacción fuerte y
And
clara
we
de la
want
comunidad
a clear
internacional,
reaction of the international
especialmente a los
community.
convocados aquí. El silencio
And
no es una opción.
silence is not an
La hora de
option.
la defensa de los derechos humanos es
Defending
hoy
human
y
rights,
depende
it
de
has to
cada uno
happen
de
now, and it
nosotros. Muchas
depends on
gracias.
all of us. So thank you very much.
Merci, merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much.
Alors, je dois donner la parole à
I'm
plusieurs
going to
États
give the
qui
floor
souhaitent
to
partager
different
leur
states
expérience
who want to
récente
share
d'adhésion
their
à
recent
la Convention.
experiences
Et
of
pour
ratifying
cela,
the convention. And in
donc je
order
vais
to do
donner la
that,
parole à
I'm going
Monsieur
to give the
Tarek
floor to
Arifou Islam,
Mr. Tariq Aliful Islam,
représentant permanent
representing
du
permanent
Bangladesh.
representative of Bangladesh.
Thank you very much, and good morning to all the distinguished participants. I would like to begin by thanking Our Excellency Ambassador Isabel Rome of France and His Excellency Ambassador Carlos Mario Foradori of Argentina for organizing this first ever World Congress on Enforced Disappearances, and we welcome your initial remarks. I'm honored to be invited to this distinguished panel, and I hope the success stories that we are going to share today will create a motivation for other member states to become party to the Enforced Disappearance Convention. And in the process, it will help eradicate this scourge from the face of the earth. And I'm looking forward to listening to my other fellow panelists. Now, today I'd like to give a brief account of our experience with enforced disappearance, our accession to the convention, and some subsequent developments. Now, how it came into being. So you might be knowing that last July and August, we had a student uprising, a mass movement in Bangladesh, and the government, they were toppled, and a new interim government took office on 8th of August. So right after the new government took office, they ratified, they became a party. They acceded to the Enforced Disappearance Convention, and the date was 30th of August. So between 8th and 30th, so it's barely 3 weeks. So we did the accession in a record period of time, and we became the 76th state party to the Enforced Disappearance Convention. And why this hurry, and why the 30th of August, if you may ask? So it was a deliberate decision to do the accession on 30th of August, because that is a very special day. That is the International Day for Victims of Enforced Disappearance. And we thought that there cannot be a better opportunity to become a party on this very special day. Of course, that put us under a lot of time pressure. You can imagine, because under regular circumstances, it would have been unthinkable becoming party to this convention, which is very politically sensitive, and the previous governments declined to do it for many decades. But we did it in 3 weeks' time, and you can also imagine that becoming party to any international convention, it involves a very long domestic procedure. But this is also an indication that if there is a political will, anything is doable. So we cut corners, but of course we followed all the domestic procedures to become a party to it. And I would like to mention another thing, that we straight away went for accession. We did not go for the step-by-step procedure that once you become signatories, then you ratify. We didn't go for that. And this is also shows the sincerity of the government that we want to do it. Now I'd like to reflect briefly on the history of enforced disappearance. And we do not have a long tradition of enforced disappearance, except for a few cases in 1971 when we had our War of Liberation, and a few cases in 1972 and the subsequent years, but the number was very small. Now you may ask, why now? Why are we doing it? What was the compulsion? So it was after a prolonged pause since 1972 that the phenomena of enforced disappearance re-emerged in 2009. And it persisted until last year. For last 15 years, it was because there was a repressive fascist regime in my country. And it was that government's systemic failure. There was a culture of impunity, there was institutions were dysfunctional, and there was lack of independent judiciary. The enforced disappearance was used as a political tool to maintain political dominance. It was used to silence the political opponents, the critiques, and the dissidents. And they were targeted using the law enforcement agencies, as it happens in many parts of the world. So following the accession is one thing, but I think its implementation is a much bigger challenge. So I will reflect on that. So first of all, even before the accession, 3 days before the accession, on 26th of August, my government instituted a domestic commission of inquiry on enforced disappearance. So this is not nothing happening in isolation. So it started with a commission of inquiry, domestic one, and then we went for the, so everything started, it was a package. And this committee of inquiry has got 5 members. It is headed by a retired High Court judge. It has got, very importantly, 2 human rights activists and one academia. And of course, there is another judge in it. And this commission of inquiry is supposed to investigate into all the cases of enforced disappearance that happened between 2009 and 2024. And of course, those were perpetrated by the law enforcement agencies and the intelligence agencies. And what is the power, what is the authority of the committee of inquiry? So this committee has been given all the resources, financial and otherwise, and very importantly, the mandate, the authority to fulfill its mandate. It has got the power of a civil court. So it can compel the state officials to cooperate. If there is anyone who is not cooperating, he or she will be, trialed. It has got access to all the secret detention centers, which is very important. And their process is very accessible. Anyone can approach the commission of inquiry, and any interested party can join, and they can share their experience. They can provide them with all the evidences and information which were not available even until last year. And this evidence gathering is a part of a public, it takes place through public consultation. So the victims, their families, and the witnesses of the enforced disappearance, they can freely go to the commission and share their whatever information they have. In addition to that, we have set up a police commission, because that is very important, because the law enforcement agency was behind these cases of enforced disappearance, and they are supposed to complement the committee of inquiry. So the idea is to build up a robust domestic institution to prevent or the recurrence of enforced disappearance. The committee of inquiry has published its initial report on 14th of December. Again, you can imagine the last 15 years, there are maybe thousands of cases, but they did it in a record time, and they have come up with the initial report, and they will come up with the final report very soon. But those are not yet public, so I may not be able to share their findings, but I can give you an idea what they have come up with. And the recommendations, when they come out, they will form the basis of national domestic accountability process to start. And of course, the issue of reparation is very important. So this committee of inquiry will also come up with recommendations on how to compensate the victims. And now what has happened that right after this committee of inquiry was formed and we acceded to the Enforced Disappearance Convention, some of the victims of enforced disappearance, they have reappeared. So they have started speaking out. So many ugly truths have come out to the media. The victims, their families, their witnesses, they are all sharing their experiences, and that is creating a new culture in the society, which will go a long way in preventing recurrence of enforced disappearance. We are engaging very closely with the working group on enforced or involuntary disappearance here in Geneva. We are trying to look into the cases. We have a caseload of 76. We are trying to bring it down because many of the victims have reappeared. The working group has been asking for a country visit for how many years, I don't know, but we have agreed, and sometime this year they're supposed to go to my country and do their work. So these are the developments, and now I would like to look into the how this accession can be transposed into our domestic law, because there are a lot of lackings in our domestic law. I can mention a few. Like our criminal law currently lacks the specific provisions for addressing the cases of enforced disappearance. So it has not yet been criminalized in our domestic mechanism. Of course, in the penal code, there are issues. There are provisions for wrongful restraint and wrongful confinement, kidnapping, and abduction. And of course, there is a penal code procedure through which proper investigation and prosecution of these crimes can be done, but there is no witness protection law. So that is a big weakness we have in our system. So we have taken up a lot of obligations by becoming a party to the convention. And so we are supposed to prevent future cases of enforced disappearance. We have to combat the impunity that was there for many decades. We have to criminalize it in our domestic law. We have to prevent the future recurrence, very important. And of course, we have to ensure proper investigation. And of course, proper, fair, and due compensation, restitution, rehabilitation, non-satisfaction, and guarantee of non-repetition. All these things we are now morally obligated to implement. Now, what we feel, of course, we are waiting for the Commission of Inquiry report to come out, but I can give you a broad outline what we are thinking about, what the Commission of Inquiry is thinking about when it comes to making specific recommendation. One is having a comprehensive law. Because as I've said, there are many lacunas in our domestic law. So I think we will have to comprehensive law perfectly aligned with the international standard, with the convention, so that we can bring the perpetrators to justice. We can ensure proper investigation. We can ensure proper compensation, reparation, all for the victims. Earlier, there were many laws which were abused by the government for enforced disappearance. I think we also need to review those laws so that they can complement the comprehensive law that we might be thinking about. We have to have a national preventive mechanism so that the security forces, they operate in full compliance with international human rights standards. We have to go for training of the law enforcement agency members. They should be sensitized about the human rights and various international instruments. We have to hold workshops, seminars, and all to make them understand the importance of maintaining human rights. We have adopted a whole of society approach. So our civil society activists, they're very, very active. They were not until last year. Now they're very active. They are engaging with the government. And I think if we have a whole of society approach, only then we can eradicate the scourge of enforced disappearance. And of course, we are putting a lot of importance on memorialization of the event, because until we have it, the society, until we sensitize the society, we have to have the memorialization. Otherwise, we can go back to square one. So finally, we've said that my government is obviously very serious about human rights, upholding human rights, and a part of that we have embarked upon this very important journey of eradicating enforced disappearance from our society. And today's landmark initiative, if we can sensitize our member states about becoming a party to the Enforced Disappearance Convention, I think that will go a long way to ensure assure truth, justice, and reparations for the victims and their families. Thank you very much.
Merci, Monsieur Islam, pour cette présentation. Je crois que vous devez
Thank you for your
partir.
presentation.
Question,
I think you have to
poser
leave.
à Monsieur
Is there
Islam
any
dans la
question
salle
for
avant
Mr. Islam
qu'il ne
in
parte?
the room before he leaves?
I've just got a comment, not a question, rather.
A comment, okay.
Firstly, I want to congratulate. Microphone, that will help. Thank you. Firstly, I want to congratulate Mr.
Can you
Is that better?
say who you are?
Oh,
yes.
Yes, sorry. I'm Zafar Ahmed. I'm chairman of Kashmir Campaign Global based in London. We're an international organization fighting for human rights across South Asia. Firstly, I want to congratulate Mr. Farado for this wonderful Congress that we have organized as the first one, and I hope there are many to come. this kind of gives us hope, especially being a victim of an illegal occupation of India since last 75 years. This is the only hope and mechanism that we have to highlight the atrocities that are taking place in our motherland. So really, thank you for providing this platform. My comment, I just wanted to congratulate Mr. Nizam for forming the new government and signing this convention. We really want to be thankful for the people of Bangladesh for supporting the human rights causes across the globe, especially for Kashmir, even though I know you guys have that turmoil. So I'm looking forward for their contribution in this place.
Thank you. Je vais donner maintenant la parole à Madame Bafou Dieng, conseillère
Mafu
de la
Jang,
Gambie.
Councillor of Gambis, the
Thank you
Gambia.
very much, Your Excellency, Excellencies, distinguished delegates. It is an honor to address this esteemed gathering once again and for the opportunity to share the Gambia's journey regarding the ratification and implementation of the International Convention for the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearance. On 28th of September 2017, the Gambia, under the leadership of His Excellency President Adama Barrow, ratified the convention after 9 months in power. This decisive step was followed by the deposition of our instrument of ratification on 28th of February 2018, reaffirming our commitment for upholding international human rights standards. The ratification process in the Gambia is a deliberate and thorough procedure. It involves the presentation, extensive deliberation, and endorsement of international conventions by the National Assembly, culminating in the President's signature and subsequent deposit with the United Nations. This ensures that every ratification aligns with our national interests and democratic principles. Reflecting on our history, the Gambia emerged in 2017 from a tumultuous period defined by widespread human rights abuses, including torture, arbitrary killings, and enforced disappearance. As aptly described by our First Minister of Justice during the transition, it was a time when fear ruled the nation for over 2 decades. Families dreaded that midnight knock on their doors, which often took their sons and husbands away. Civil servants went to work every morning saying goodbye to their families as if it might be the last that they would be seen. For returning home was never a certainty. Torture was widespread and routine. Enforced disappearances of political opponents and journalists were the order of the day. Summary executions and targeted killings were carried out without consequence. Ordinary citizens spoke of their leaders only in whispers within the 4 walls of their bedrooms. Even the judiciary was not spared, as judges and other judicial officers were summarily dismissed without regard for the law. This vivid description not only captures the gravity of the situation, but also underscores the resilience of the Gambian people and their determination to break free from this dark chapter of our history. It serves as a reminder of why our commitment to the International Convention to the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearance is also crucial as we strive to ensure that such atrocities are never repeated. Against this backdrop, the ratification of the CED marked a turning point in the Gambia's history, as it underscored our collective resolve to confront and address these grave violations, ensuring they are never repeated. Excellencies, the ratification and the full implementation, of course, is not without challenges. However, as we ventured in the road to full implementation, the systemic dismantling of state institutions under the previous regime left a legacy of fragility. And to overcome this, the Gambia has embarked on a comprehensive constitutional, legal, and institutional reforms to align with international standards on justice and human rights. In these efforts, we've received numerous supports, and the support of key institutions has been invaluable. The Convention Against Torture Initiative has conducted several capacity building sessions with policymakers, the National Assembly, the judiciary, and other stakeholders. These sessions have enhanced technical expertise and fostered a deeper understanding of the Convention's provisions. Additionally, the International Coalition Against Enforced Disappearances have also played an instrumental role in advancing and advocating for the ratification and effective implementation of the Convention. Their efforts have contributed to raising awareness and building capacity within the Gambia to address these grave human rights issues. The Institute for Human Rights and Development in Africa, based in Banjul, has also provided critical support, particularly in training civil society organizations on implementing the recommendations of the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission in line with torture and enforced disappearance cases. As well, the National Human Rights Commission plays a critical role in monitoring government actions and continuously reminding the authorities of the need for the full domestication of the International Convention for the Protection of all persons from enforced disappearances, including the constant reminder for government to establish a national preventive mechanism. This independent oversight has been instrumental in holding the government accountable and reinforcing our collective commitment to human rights and justice. From 2017 to 2024, our transitional justice process focused on fostering social cohesion, national reconciliation, and building democratic foundations. This process has been instrumental in addressing the systemic failures of the past and ensuring the respect of human rights for all. The Gambia has demonstrated its commitment to the implementation of the International Convention and by pledging yesterday to establish a comprehensive legislation and a national action plan by March 2026. We have also submitted our initial report on the implementation to the Committee on Enforced Disappearances in line with the convention and are set to be reviewed in March, and we look forward to the recommendations. Furthermore, in line with the implementation of the TRRC recommendations, the state remains steadfast in its pursuit of accountability to address past human rights violations and ensure justice for all. Excellencies and distinguished delegates, the fight against enforced disappearances requires a collective global effort, and on behalf of the Gambia, I urge all states that have not yet done so to take the critical step of signing and ratifying the vital convention, because by doing so, we reaffirm our shared humanity and our determination to eradicate the suffering caused by this heinous practice, and together, we can build a future where enforced disappearances are consigned to history and human dignity is protected by everyone. I thank you.
Merci. Merci beaucoup pour cette présentation.
Thank you for
Maintenant,
this
je vais donner
presentation.
la parole à
Now we're
Madame
going to
Marissa
move to
Toumata,
Marissa
première
Toumata,
secrétaire de Samoa.
First Secretary of Samoa.
Thank you, Ambassador. Your Excellencies, good morning and talofa lava. On the outset, I wish to congratulate Poland for becoming the 77th state party to the convention, and also wish to commend others who have also recently joined. It is an honor to share Samoa's experience and perspective as a small island developing state. To provide some background context, Samoa is a party to six of the 9 human rights conventions, including the International Convention for the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearance. We signed the convention on 6th of December 2007, when the convention was first opened for signature in Paris, alongside 58 other states, and Samoa ratified the convention without reservations on the 27th of November 2012, as it was consistent with government policy towards supporting international efforts to promote and protect fundamental human rights. Noting as well, in 2011, during our first Universal Periodic Review, one of the recommendations we received was to ratify the convention. At the moment, Samoa is one of 2 Pacific Island countries who are a state party to CEDI, and Samoa has no reported cases of enforced disappearances. It is our hope that more from our region would join, given the importance in fulfilling our international human rights obligations, but recognizing also enforced disappearances remain a prevalent and significant issue in other parts of the world. By ratifying the convention, we affirm to the international community Samoa's commitment not only to the rule of law, but also the protection and promotion of human rights, and ensure that 1, no one shall be subjected to enforced disappearance, and 2, no exceptional circumstances whatsoever, whether a state of war or threat of war, internal political instability, or other public emergency may be invoked as justification for enforced disappearances. For Samoa, the provisions of an international instrument must be domesticated or translated into national law before the legal obligations of said international instruments can be implemented. Thus, prior to becoming a party to an international human rights instrument, the government of Samoa must assess its ability to fulfill all obligations of the convention, especially reporting and financial obligations, as well as to undertake a legislative compliance review to determine whether there was a need for legislative amendments to existing laws or the enactment of new legislation. When we ratified the convention, there was no specific legislation in place to ensure compliance with the convention's obligations. However, it was determined that Samoa was in a position to adequately meet its obligation under the CED without drafting new legislation, as our current laws appeared sufficient to enable domestication. For example, the Constitution of Samoa guarantees the fundamental right to life and personal liberty for every person in Samoa, and the International Criminal Court Act of 2007, in which crimes against humanity is an offense liable upon conviction and to be punishable by life imprisonment. Samoa is a small island developing state, and we experience such challenges, for example, the lack of resources, limited data collection and statistics, limited capacity and technical assistance required to progress the implementation of human rights obligations, including reporting. Therefore, to ensure a more permanent and structured approach in our reporting and implementation of human rights, Samoa established through the Cabinet Directive the National Mechanism for Reporting, Implementation, and Follow-up in 2016. The National Mechanism for Reporting, Implementation, and Follow-up is chaired by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade and is comprised of executive and technical officers of key government ministries involved in reporting and implementation of human rights, and it is also observed by the NHRI and civil society where applicable. To assist the work of the national mechanism, Samoa also developed CEDI, which is an online tool and open to access by the public that is designed to track recommendations and its implementation across all treaty bodies and human rights mechanisms. CEDI compiles information of the human rights works conducted both by the NGOs and by government and development partners, and links all implementation to our international human rights obligations, the Sustainable Development Goals, and key performance indicators of our national development strategy. Reporting burdens, fatigue, high personnel turnover are problems that are common in the region and among small island developing states. Samoa develops the data to alleviate this issue, and its operating program, Impact OSS, is now being rolled out throughout the Pacific region to assist Pacific Island countries in the work on human rights. Also later this year, Samoa is expected to present to the Committee on Enforced Disappearances following the submission of our initial report in 2023. It is through our National Mechanism for Implementation, Reporting, and Follow-up, the use of CEDI, and support from the Commonwealth Secretariat that enables Samoa to be the first Pacific island to submit its initial report. We encourage states in this instance to leverage the assistance on offer, either by the Commonwealth Secretariat for members of the Commonwealth or CEDI, the Convention Against Enforced Disappearances Initiative, to support ratification and implementation of the convention. Samoa also remains available for any small state wishing to learn more from our experience. To conclude, what sets out Samoa from Pacific neighbors is our Samoa, or Samoan way of life. At the core of Samoa is our family and where we draw our strengths from. While we may be small, we do reaffirm our commitment to the fundamental principles enshrined in the convention and express solidarity for everyone affected. We stand steadfast in our support for the elimination of enforced disappearances worldwide. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much. I think we can move on to the exchanges with the room. I'm going to give the floor Mr. Marcos Gómez Martínez, Ambassador of Spain. Thank you, Ambassador. Spain is grateful for this initiative against forced disappearance. Argentina, France, Morocco, Samoa and the victims, the families, and the civil society, the organization of this Congress. After our ratification of the convention in 2011, Spain was one of the first countries to do it. We see in this important meeting an occasion to repeat and insist in our commitment for the prevention of new cases of enforced disappearance. We encourage the cooperation established between the committee, the working group, the special procedures by the Council, the treaty organizations, and the international and national treaties, because all of them complement themselves, and this work, development of this fundamental mandate. We heard yesterday an interdisciplinary approach to approach the disappearance, and we endorse this and giving a central role to the victims and the civil society. We also want to congratulate the fighters for human rights, the NGOs and other groups that work to warn, denounce and document cases of enforced disappearance. We're happy for the creation of the International Day of the Victims, which is an encouragement to include the voices and put them at the center of the policies, both national and international. My country, Spain, recently paid a hefty price, and we know that progress and democracy are not irreversible. So recovery of memory is a pivotal element of democracy, an intergeneral element, as the committee and other international mechanisms have communicated to Spain in their reports. We are committed with the principles of justice, truth, repair, and dignification of memory, which in our legislation is developed in the democracy memory and the second Spanish human rights plan. This regulation provides a court for the special court for the investigation of violation of human rights, the identification of human remains that may belong to people disappeared during the civil war in Spain, which is happened 50 years ago. The public powers are urged to recognize those who were the victims to prevent the repetition of any sort of political violence, reinforcing the culture of peace through education, the collaboration of with victims associations and the civil society. As the ambassador of Argentina mentioned, this appearance is not something from the past. We can see this in migration phenomena, in natural disaster, in armed conflicts, and in cases of gender violence and repression. In my country, we would like to share a case of good practice. We signed a convention with the Red Cross for the identification of bodies to provide a response to the families of disappeared ones, to mitigate the wounds, the deep wounds that the disappearance of a person leaves behind. We support the efforts by the special rapporteur to establish specialized protocols in the investigation of women homicides and to prevent this sort of crimes. Finally, I would like to encourage the states to ratify the convention, because this gives us dignity as a state and to have working together against this horrible crime. Thank you. Thank you so much. To give the floor to the representative of Denmark. You're over there.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Excellencies, for this very interesting component, and in general for taking part in organizing this Congress. Promoting universal ratification and effective implementation has been identified here as one of the principal aims of the World Congress. And in that regard, I'm happy to highlight that Denmark is among those countries who recently embarked on and have now concluded our national ratification process. So Denmark ratified in the convention in 2022. And have made the necessary amendments to national law to ensure that effective implementation of the convention can take place. The ratification of this convention as such did not require too many changes in domestic laws, was the assessment of the Ministry of Justice. But the ratification came at a time of strong geopolitical tensions, and hence also push towards other relevant significant legal steps. So Denmark, as of the 1st of January 25, has introduced a new chapter in the criminal code, specifically and independently criminalizing torture, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. So while all of the international crimes were already criminalized in Danish law for a long time, the government wanted to make crystal clear in the current conditions that Denmark has a strong focus on ensuring efficient prosecution of the gravest international crimes, also at home. The Danish authorities are now in the process of preparing our report to the committee on enforced disappearances, and I can report today that the preparations are advancing well. We're looking forward to that dialogue with the committee, including the interactive dialogue and concluding observations. And when we have been through our process, we are obviously very happy to share our experience with other states. And equally, in the spirit of this learning exchange, we are very interested in listening to the experience from those who have very recently delivered their reports and been through this initial exchange, you can say, after having ratified. And I would like to use this occasion also to congratulate and voice our support to the many stakeholders, states, organizations, victims involved in making the Congress a reality. And in that regard, I have another relevant reflection on energizing the work and achieving more ratifications and better implementation. Denmark, together with a group of other core states, has been leading a similar initiative regarding the Convention on Torture, the so-called Convention Against Torture Initiative, CEDI, which is the initiative that my distinguished colleague from the Gambia also mentioned recently, that they had achieved an element of technical support from that initiative. And I believe that while methods and means between different initiatives on the international level energize and promote ratification, of course, can change and be different, and I think we all are struggling and are looking for all the time innovative approaches. I believe that overall speaking, that such initiatives have proven already extremely important to exactly inject this energy, particularly if it also builds on then these elements of support, of technical support to countries who are interested in the process. Both it can be difficult to amend laws and see what's necessary in national law. But of course, the reporting, which is, of course, I know only an initial aspect for this convention, but of course there will be a continuous dialogue nonetheless on the international level, and any kind of technical support that these kind of international initiatives can give, at least in the context of the Convention Against Torture, has proven very, very helpful. So just to applaud and support that there is that element as well. So just these were our reflections at this point, and we're looking very much forward also to be approached by anyone who have good ideas to how we can do our issues. Thank you very much.
Merci, pour ce partage. Vous vouliez dire quelque chose, madame? Alors, je devais parole, pardon.
Thank you very
Avant de
much for
donner la
sharing.
parole, je voulais juste céder la parole au sénateur
First of all, I wanted to
des Parliamentarians for Global Action et ensuite
give the representative of global parliamentarians,
États.
and then I will give the floor
Thank
to
you
the
very
other
much.
members.
First of all, my compliments for organizing this first World Conference. I think it's very important. I'm representing Parliamentarians for Global Action. We are a non-partisan international network of about 1,100 members of parliament, legislators, people's representatives from about 140 parliaments around the world. And we are promoting peace, democracy, rule of law, human rights, gender equality, international justice, and we mobilize our members of parliament to realize these goals. Now, in terms of the ratification and implementation of the International Covenant on Enforced Disappearances, what I would like to share is that we are here to listen to all of you, and especially to people from civil society, because we as members of parliament, we recognize that it's a collective approach to fight these burdens of the victims. And it's not only the victims who have to do that, we have to do that together in societies. And therefore, we are collecting best practices and strategies, and we do not want to invent the wheel. So whatever there is in terms of technical assistance, we would like to collect that as well. And then we will support individual members of parliament how to navigate ratification and amending domestic laws, in close collaboration, of course, with civil society in those countries. I'm a senator in the Netherlands, and in my country, we have different ways of ratification of international treaties or covenants. We have the silent approach, and that's actually that if the parliament doesn't respond within 30 days, then the treaty that has been negotiated upon by the government is approved. But we also have an explicit, debatable approach of international covenants. And as I've learned in several sessions during this Congress, there are, for instance, in Argentina now governments that are considered to be very much to the right or extreme right, like in my country. And what we see is that several of these covenants have a very political aspect to it. And some of these far-right governments are actually not very supportive of multilateral organizations, international covenants. So one of the approaches in my country is that we now, whenever there is a convention or treaty presented to Parliament, that we will have debates and that we will have a vote on these laws that are actually approving the treaties, so that people realize that it's not only the government that has been negotiating, but also people's representatives are supportive of the values in those covenants. Now, I'd like to conclude by saying that of course, members of parliament cannot change the text of an international covenant, but what we can do in such debates with our governments is to focus on specific aspects and ask the government in terms of a resolution or a motion to focus on specific aspects of the international covenant. And we will do that in terms of many treaties. And therefore, I think it's very important that we have the input of all of you for PGA, Parliamentarians for Global Action. And looking forward to the second World Congress where we might present our results. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup. Alors, plusieurs États donc, ont demandé la parole.
Thank you very much. So we have, I'm going to Madame Alban Profetes, Secretary of the Committee of Forced Disappearances, is present here. Thank you very much.
Alors, j'ai l'Afrique du Sud qui
I
souhaite prendre la
have
parole.
South Africa,
Ensuite, la Belgique et déjà et le Mexique.
Belgium, and Mexico,
Trois pays qui se sont manifestés. Donc,
the three countries who want to share their experiences. South Africa, please.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much to Samoa, France, Argentina, and Morocco for giving us this opportunity to share our experiences today. As you know, we're a relatively new states party, so we're very excited to be with you here today. In terms of sharing our experiences towards ratification, I think the first thing to say is context is everything. And I think we've heard that from a number of speakers already. Given South Africa's painful past, where enforced disappearances were used as a blunt instrument to maintain the pernicious system of apartheid, we know all too well the importance of this convention. It is therefore no coincidence that South Africa acceded to the convention on the very same date that we deposited our instrument of accession to the International Convention on the Suppression and Punishment of the Crime of Apartheid. Indeed, the need to squarely address these enforced disappearances was seen as fundamental to building and maintaining our new democracy, and as such was at the very center of our transitional justice processes, in particular the investigations of our Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And this work continues today as the TRC has some unfinished business, which is its most significant work in a sense going forward. Beyond our past, we similarly recognize the need to look to the future. While the crime of enforced disappearance has been incorporated into South African law due to the country's accession to the Rome Statute, there was also a need to deal with those individual cases that would not necessarily meet this threshold. Accordingly, by acceding to the convention, we sought to close this gap, thereby ensuring that enforced disappearances are never, ever again perpetrated by a South African state under any circumstances. Our journey towards ratification was also informed by development within the context of the African Union. And we heard yesterday about the guidelines that the African Commission on Human and People's Rights on the protection of all persons against enforced disappearances in Africa spoke about, which serve as an important platform to encourage AU member states to accede to the convention. Indeed, the universal ratification of the convention, well beyond the African continent, is a precondition for eradicating enforced disappearances once and for all. As such, it would be critically important to ensure that states are supported to meet the stringent requirements. And I think we've spoken about the legal requirements, but also sharing experience in terms of implementation more broadly, in terms of reburials, investigations, exhumations, etc. So it's in a sense, beyond technical cooperation, we also need to walk the walk. Those of us who have ratified the convention must ensure that we resolutely implement it and that we comply with its provisions, as any failure to do so would then undermine the very credibility of the convention, which is so important. In so doing, we need to also address some of the contemporary challenges, including the notion of short-term enforced disappearances. South Africa therefore welcomes the joint statement made by the Committee on Enforced Disappearances in October 2024, clarifying this matter and emphasizing that duration is not a constitutive element of enforced disappearances under international human rights law. In this regard, we have been increasingly concerned about how short-term enforced disappearances are increasingly being invoked, more especially to repress those who seek to assert their inalienable right to self-determination. South Africa looks forward to working with states parties and indeed all other role players, including civil society, to ensure the Convention's provisions become a lived reality for all. We owe it to the memory of the disappeared and their families, which deserve no less. I thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. I'm going to give the floor now to the representative of Belgium.
Thank you. I'm Veronique Joosten, the Human Rights Director in the Belgian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But when we ratified the convention over a decade ago, I was actually responsible for the file in our MFA. And I wanted to share briefly some experiences. And I wanted to pick up what my Danish colleague said on the technicality and the need for technical assistance, because the concept of enforced disappearance is not well known, at least in my own country. And when I was dealing with the file, even within the ministry, I regularly had to explain what an enforced disappearance is. And now, a decade later, when I was informing people that I was attending this Congress, I again got that question. So I think that's something that we all need to put our efforts into the public at large to inform them about this issue. And then, of course, the ratification, we really needed also help. And I found an ally and a colleague in the Ministry of Justice, because it's actually mainly the experts on the criminal code and adaptations that you need to do there. And we were fortunate enough that there were 2 EU member countries who already ratified before us and shared their technical expertise. We organized a kind of an educational workshop, and it were France and Germany that shared their experiences. And then later on, we were also able, because we also lobbied other EU member states to join us and to ratify, to also have this to exchange our experiences and say how we dealt with the topics and how we invested in it, because there were no reported enforced disappearances in Belgium. And so one of the questions we also got is why we then need to ratify. And there we also had to reply that for Belgium, the fight against impunity is an important priority in our foreign policy. And so that we think it's a collective responsibility. And for the preventive role, that we also had to ratify and to engage. And I think, for example, the roundtable you organized yesterday on universal jurisdiction was very illustrative in that respect. I just want to conclude by thanking you for organizing the Congress and also all the participants and especially the stakeholders, because it's extremely important also to keep us civil servants and state representatives motivated to continue to invest in this issue. And that was certainly the case. I was very touched by a great number of the testimonies that really shows that we need to continue collectively to ensure this universal ratification. Thank you.
Merci pour ce partage.
Thank you very much for sharing. So there are different interventions, so please be brief, because otherwise not everybody will be able to talk. I'm going to give the floor to the representative of Mexico. Thank you very much for giving me the floor. Thanks to the organizers for this discussion and the different collectives for being here. So searching for disappeared people is a priority for the Mexican state. We participate in this Congress, acknowledging the duties in searching for disappeared people and fighting against enforced disappearances. Regarding the ratification and the implementation of the convention, Mexico has a wide experience, and we are going to share it with you gladly in order to ratify the convention. We ratified the convention in 2008, and since then we have cooperated with the Committee Against the Enforced Disappearances. We were the first country to have a constructive dialogue in 2018, and the first country being visited by the committee. And in 2023, we had a second dialogue with the committee, and we are the only country that has done this constructive dialogue in 2 occasions. And out of these different dialogues, we have established different actions in the prevention of violation of human rights, of enforced disappearances. We are open to the international inquiry, and we want to protect the human rights of the people, and we want to reinforce the international system of human rights. At the same time, we want to share our solidarity to the relatives and of these disappeared people. Thank you very much. Thank thank you very much. Now I'm going to give the floor to Mr. Messiaen Wang, expert from Morocco in CEDI. Thank you very much. I'm a member of the Committee Against Torture. I am the Vice
I would like
President.
To recall the complementarity that exists between other mechanisms, especially the CAT, the Committee Against Torture, the SPT, the Subcommittee on the Prevention of Torture, and also the Special Rapporteur on the Promotion of Truth and Justice. All these mechanisms, they complement the work of the UN Committee Against Disappearances. In the CAT, we have to deal with the issue of forced disappearance at 2 levels. When dealing with transitional justice experiences, which have been adopted by certain states parties to the CAT, and also at the level of because we consider that forced disappearance in itself is torture not only for the direct victim, but also for indirect victims, which are families and friends of the victims. And we usually do recommendations for state parties who are not party to the convention. We raise this issue within the dialogue, and we recommend them to ratify the convention. And this is important because only 70 or 75 states have ratified so far the convention against the disappearances. And also we deal with the issue when dealing with fundamental legal safeguards. And I think that also the SPT, the Subcommittee on the Prevention of Torture, put in place by virtue of the optional protocol to the Convention Against Torture, because we believe that forced disappearance happens to be in 2 circumstances. When there is individual violations, and these 2 mechanisms, they play a major role in preventing the occurrence of the practice of forced disappearance. And it can, as we have seen during this event in special circumstances, war, conflict, when we have a dictatorship and a transition to democracy. And there, when the state is a party to the convention, we raise the issue and we make recommendations in the light of the norms adopted so far within what is have been established as transitional justice now, and the pillars, the 4 pillars which have been adopted as norms by the UN and especially by the Special Rapporteur on the promotion of truth, which are truth, justice, redress, and guarantees for no occurrence. And thank you for giving me the floor.
Thank you very much for sharing. I'm going to give the floor to Mr. Luciano Asa.
Thank you very much. I'll go in Spanish.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to participate in this very important meeting. It is one of the most important meetings in this Congress. And we've been for many years moving forward in the ratification of the Convention. I was the member of the working group about enforced disappearances during 2 terms, and also of the committee against disappearances. I've talked to many representatives trying to explain the importance of the universal ratification. I am very hopeful to see a lot of people attending this Congress. And also I'm hopeful because I can hear the experiences of many states that have already ratified, like, for example, Bangladesh. We can see the change in the political situation in a country generates a very fast ratification and a commitment, the acceptance of the visit to the country. And also I'm hopeful because I hear countries that do not have a problem about enforced disappearances, never experienced these disappearances, but they have also ratified this convention and they want to offer technical support to other countries. And this shows the importance of solidarity, of international solidarity. And also, we need to take into account in this meeting the importance of the ratification in cooperation, in international cooperation, so that the countries that do not suffer this problem, but through the norms of the convention, can give support to other countries that have this problem. Perpetrators flee the countries in order not to be prosecuted. So international cooperation can prevent impunity. And I think that we are in a critical moment in this Congress, thinking about what we can do, next steps we can take, the work of the international community, of the families, of the civil society, of the states. So what can we do? And the technical support that was mentioned, the need to have a workshop maybe here in Geneva, sharing these experiences and also inviting the states that have not ratified to take one step forward, not to be fearful, and to do the reforms that are needed. And I am sure that my colleagues and the CEDI that organized it will be facilitated. So maybe thinking about how to move forward and which of the proposals so that this Congress it can be a milestone and that we will have more ratifications from more countries in order to achieve the goal of 100 that the ambassador from France mentioned a moment ago, and even more, a universal ratification as soon as possible. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'll to give the floor to the representative of Mauritania. Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much. Good morning to one and all. I take the opportunity and I'm going to speak in Arabic. I would like to thank the organizers of this first Congress and the organizers of this specific roundtable of this session. And I want to say that it is one of the most important sessions of the day, one of the most important sessions of the Congress in Mauritania. We were pioneers when ratifying this convention, and we ratified it in 2012, and we have approved a legal framework in 2020, in September 2023. We elaborated our report and we shared it with the Committee of the United Nations working on this field. One of the advantages of this ratification is that it has helped us to improve our legal framework in order to prevent cases of enforced disappearances. And this convention in Mauritania starts integrating parts of our legal proceedings, and we have translated into the Article 82 of our Constitution. And we have also created our own law to fight and eradicate torture. And we have included this content in our new law for the eradication of torture. We have created a digital platform so that anyone can denounce these situations. And we have also increased the surveillance so that these cases never happen again, and to respect the dignity of people. And we have benefited from the experience of countries, and I think that this convention can be a tool to improve the legal situation of the countries surrounding us. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm going to give the floor to Albana Prophet, the Secretary of the Committee of Enforced Disappearances. It's 12:28, and we need to finish before 12:40.
Present
Thank you
today
very
and
much.
yesterday as well. It's really an honor to count with your presence. No, I just wanted to recall what kind of support you can expect from the Secretariat, from the Committee, and from OHCHR in general regarding the ratification, but also the implementation of the Convention. There is a guide that was published like 2 years ago on becoming a party to the International Convention for the Protection of all persons from enforced disappearance that explains the notions of the convention very quickly and how to ratify, what are the preliminary requirements in case there is any to ratify. Also, I want to highlight that we are always available. You send us an email at the Secretariat, ohchr/sed/un.org. You ask for support, and to the extent possible, we reply immediately. Be it to reply to specific questions or to organize trainings, interactions, clarifications. We've had many examples of bilateral meetings, of online trainings, online clarifications, replying to parliaments, to other state organizations, state institutions, etc., on very specific issues, or more generally speaking. There is also the capacity building program at OHCHR that has a part of its activities related to the ratification of treaty bodies, including CEDI, of course, and also for the reporting process, etc. And we can, of course, put you in contact with the capacity building program to develop these kind of things. I really want to highlight this issue that Luciano Hassan highlighted. The convention is a fantastic instrument for international cooperation, international support. And throughout our daily work, we see that enforced disappearance can occur to any of us. It's not, it's really your son, your daughter, your sister, your brother, your husband, wives. And in any place of the world, this can happen. And it's really important that when the national of a state that is not party to a convention comes to your place, comes to your permanent missions and asks for support, of course, then the tools are not available if there is no ratification. And it's really important to have that in mind. We have plenty of examples of people seeking support of their states who cannot get a reply because the state where the disappearance occurred is not party to the convention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the explanation. I'm going to give the floor to Maurice Tilbombitz, Special Rapporteur of Extrajudicial. Thank you. Thank you very much, President, and congratulations for this excellent conference. And as the representative said a moment ago, this session is one of the most important in this conference. And I wanted to complement what was said by Luciano and Alban Prophet when talking about the implementation of the convention. And as a special rapporteur in my technical visits in different countries, and also in the visits that I have done, I've noticed that there is a great potential to implement in an efficient way Articles 14 and 15 of the Convention. The state members will cooperate and will help each other to give assistance to the victims of forced disappearance, also for the search and liberation of people who are disappeared, and in case they died, the exhumation and the identification of the bodies and the restitution of the bodies. And I am grateful for the commitment of the Brazilian state, represented by the Ambassador Brazilian Núñez yesterday, offering the support of Brazil, giving assistance, technical assistance, forensic assistance to the different state members when searching and recovering the disappeared people. And it's not only a great potential, but also a need. And in my bilateral dialogue with the high representatives from different countries regarding this opportunity given by the convention, they all showed their opinion. And we need to be facilitators, and I want to take the opportunity to offer the services and other mechanisms, special mechanisms to cooperate with the state in the implementation of this article. For example, we heard the excellent news of the ratification by Bangladesh of the convention, and also the need and the challenges they face. It is a state that would benefit a lot from the experience of states as France or Chile or Denmark and many others that, or Mexico, that have a great experience. So please count on us. We are here to help you to make these articles effective. Thank you very much, President.
Merci pour vos explications. Ça va être l'heure de conclure. Donc, je crois que Monsieur
We're about
le
to
représentant
finish.
d'Argentine
We
souhaitait dire
have
quelques mots.
the
Et ensuite,
one
je donnerai pour
last
conclure
intervention
la
by the
parole à
representative
Monsieur
of
Abdel
Argentine,
Bouteflika,
and then Abdel Bouteflika,
permanent adjoint du
he's
Maroc.
the deputy representative of Morocco.
Pardon. Donc, quelques mots pour
Thank you so much. Just one clarification. Since Argentina was mentioned, we need to tear down some myths from the old days, the past policy making, and the alleged purposes of certain governments. This qualification between left, right, far right, I just want to give you a few numbers so that you have some context. In the case of Argentina, in December 2023, Argentina ended up with 47% of poor population, with a left party government. 28% of inflation in a month, so 1% a day. And this is the worst attack to poverty. And 2024 ended with 38% of poverty, a reduction of poverty, and 2.7% a month of inflation, which is still high. But this gives some respite to the poorer classes. So mentioning left or right, saying that the left parties are in favor of the poor population, in the case of Argentina, is the other way around. The objective is to have less poor in the country. Here, we criticize the United Nations. It is a problem by the UN. It is this lack of criticism and the lack of commitment of their members against reform that pursues the well-being of the international community and people. So this passivity that can be seen from many representatives here in Geneva and other international fora show a lack of effectiveness. And if we're not clear against that, nothing's going to change. And thirdly, regarding the topic of today, which is forced disappearance, first of all, I just wanted to ratify what my colleagues from Argentina said before. So the need to increase the number of ratifications, as I said in my initial speech, and I also would like to say something else, and combining both things, left and right. Let's look over what's going on. Let's have a look at what's going on in our region. Right-wing parties, in the case of Argentina, we don't have forced disappearance. But in the case of Nicaragua and Venezuela, there are today this problem today. I give the floor to the representative of Morocco. Sorry to the other people who requested to participate. It is a pity, but we need to conclude at 12:40. Thank you. I'll try to be brief.
Delegates, ladies and gentlemen, as we bring this enlightening panel discussion to a close, I wish to express my heartfelt appreciation for the meaningful contributions of every participant. Our exchanges today have underscored the critical importance of the universal ratification and implementation of the International Convention for the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearance. This convention is more than a legal framework. It is a shared moral commitment that reaffirms the universal principles of human dignity, justice, and accountability. The testimonies and experiences shared during this session have been both inspiring and instructive. From accounts of progress made in prevention and accountability to reflections on challenges yet to be overcome, we have seen how collaboration and solidarity can lead to tangible results. These examples remind us of the transformative power of collective action and the necessity of maintaining a united front against this heinous violation of human rights. As a core state to the Convention Against Enforced Disappearances initiative, the Kingdom of Morocco is steadfast in its commitment to the fight against enforced disappearances. At the center of this commitment lies an unwavering dedication to align national policies and practices with international standards. Morocco has demonstrated this through active cooperation with mechanisms established under the Convention, underscoring its resolve to uphold its principles. On the national level, Morocco has reinforced its legal and institutional frameworks to protect individuals from enforced disappearances. The Kingdom's efforts include strengthening investigative mechanisms to address allegations, providing critical support to victims and their families, and ensuring that justice is served in cases of violation. The National Human Rights Council plays a pivotal role in these efforts by fostering cooperation between national stakeholders and international bodies, promoting accountability and raising awareness about the importance of addressing this issue comprehensively. These measures reflect Morocco's holistic approach, which integrates prevention, accountability, and support into a cohesive strategy to safeguard human rights. Today's dialogue has underscored an undeniable truth. The eradication of enforced disappearances requires collective determination and a shared sense of responsibility. We urge all states to join the nations that have ratified the Convention and to consider recognizing the competence of its monitoring mechanisms. Such steps will not only strengthen the international framework for justice, but also will reaffirm our commitment to the victims and their families who deserve truth, justice, and reparation. As we move forward, let us carry with us the momentum generated by this important discussion. Each decision to ratify and implement the Convention is a step towards building a world where enforced disappearances are no longer tolerated. It is a step toward a world where the rights to life, liberty, and security of every individual are fully respected and protected. I would like to close by extending my deepest gratitude to the co-organizers, panelists, and participants for their dedications, insights, and firm commitment to this cause. Together, let us continue to champion the universal principles of human rights, justice, and accountability, working toward a future that honors the dignity and humanity of all. Thank you.
Thank you for these last remarks. We need to conclude, and we'll see you in the second Congress. Thank you so much.